They fired me with a smirk and called it budget cuts. They said I wasn't a team player just before locking me out and replacing me overnight. 16 months later, they begged me to return, without knowing I held the fuse to their downfall. Before you hear my story, tap subscribe and drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated, replaced, or quietly pushed aside. I remember the moment not because it was dramatic, but because it was suffocatingly quiet. The kind of silence that wraps around you like plastic, sticky, and hard to breathe through. There's no loud announcement, no farewell cake, or forced applause, just the cold, mechanical beep of the security scanner turning red. I stood there, half turned toward the door, my ID card trembling in my hand as if it too was unsure of what just happened. I swiped again. Red light. A security guard glanced up from his desk, but said nothing. Maybe he'd seen this scene too many times. Maybe he already knew what I was only beginning to understand. I stepped back, blinked hard, and checked my phone. No notifications. No emails. Just yesterday's unread messages asking for campaign numbers and next week's pitch schedule. I was supposed to be in the boardroom by 9:30 a.m. to present projections. It was 9:07. Instead, I stood outside the building I had given 4 years of my life to like an outsider staring into a life that had decided it no longer needed me. When I finally opened my inbox again, I saw it. Subject, employment update. Hi, Avery. As discussed, we've chosen to move in a different direction. Your access has been discontinued effective immediately. Please arrange for a courier to collect any remaining items. As discussed, there was no discussion. Just silence. Just a locked door and a fading sense of belonging. It wasn't just a job. It was my identity. My hours. My weekends. My sleep. I had invested in this company like it was family. Stayed late when nobody asked me to. Covered for co-workers. Built entire strategies that Jason, the man who signed my termination, presented as his own. And now, I didn't even rate a call. Not a conversation. Just an auto-generated email signed with a name I once greeted every morning. Betrayal doesn't scream. It whispers. It's quiet. And it waits until you're alone. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, the beige carpet still smelling faintly of the takeout I dropped last weekend. A single desk lamp lit the room like a bad interrogation scene. My laptop sat open beside me, the screen dimming every few seconds like it, too, had given up on me. I hadn't told Mia yet. I didn't know how to say it. I got fired felt wrong. It sounded like I did something terrible, like I'd betrayed the company when really they'd betrayed me. I kept replaying Jason's voice in my head. You're sharp, Avery, but sometimes you just don't mesh. You're not the most collaborative. Collaborative. That was the word they used when they wanted you to shut up and nod. When you had ideas too big to fit into someone else's shadow. I should have seen it coming. The praise had started drying up months ago. My projects were reassigned. Jason had started inviting younger, flashier hires to client meetings. I was becoming invisible in real time. And when the company began murmuring about restructuring, I convinced myself I was safe. Because I was valuable. Because I had earned it. Because I believed in meritocracy. Fool. The next few weeks were a cocktail of insomnia and adrenaline. My body moved through the motions. Apply, apply, apply. But my heart was a ghost wandering the same LinkedIn pages, the same rejection emails, the same, we'll keep your resume on file echoes. I made a spreadsheet. It told me I had 62 days until I couldn't afford rent. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I wasn't just exhausted, I was erased. Mia noticed. She always does. One night, she slid a cup of coffee beside my laptop and sat beside me, cross-legged on the floor like we used to in college. What if this isn't the end? What if it's your chance to start something for yourself? I laughed. It came out bitter. Start what? I can't even start my car without checking my bank account. But her words didn't leave me. They lodged somewhere deep, quiet, persistent. Freelancing wasn't a dream. It was a survival instinct. I didn't want freedom. I wanted security. But no one was hiring me, so I decided to hire myself. I created a portfolio out of dust and desperation. Strategic consultant, growth architect, brand whisper, all titles that meant I used to work for a guy who stole my ideas and now I have to repackage them under my own name. I undercharged. I overdelivered. My first client was a scrappy tech startup that needed a product launch campaign. I charged half of what I was worth and worked through the night. Their launch metrics doubled. They referred me. Then someone else did. Then someone else. Soon, my inbox was no longer empty. I had calls scheduled, calendars booked, invoices sent. Still, I never felt triumphant. Not yet. I worked with clenched teeth, with that gnawing echo of Jason's voice in the back of my head. You're not the most collaborative. What he meant was, you're not compliant. And now, I didn't have to be. Then came the email. Subject, urgent, strategic pivot consultant needed. Hi, we're looking for a short-term strategy consultant to help with a critical brand overhaul. Fast turnaround. Strong experience required. Are you available for a 10 to 15-hour engagement this week? I scanned the domain. My breath stopped. Jason's company. The assistant who sent it didn't know who I was. But I knew. Oh, I knew. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My heart was a snare drum, pounding, not with panic, with something darker, sharper. This was it. This was the full circle. The crack in the mirror. I took a deep breath. Then I wrote, Hi. Yes, I'm available. My rate is $270 per hour, 10-hour minimum. Prepaid in full. Attached is my standard NDA and terms. They agreed. No questions. No recognition. They didn't know that the consultant they just hired was the same strategist they humiliated, the one they erased. But they would. Oh, they would. I sat back in my chair, fingers tented, a quiet smile creeping across my face. Not the kind of smile you wear in photos. The kind you wear when the storm finally comes, and you're the one who brought the clouds. It took 2 months to stop feeling like I was falling. At first, every morning was the same. I'd wake up at 6:30, instinctively reaching for my phone to check Slack, only to find an empty home screen and a phantom ache in my chest. I'd sit with my coffee in silence, staring out at the world like I'd been banished from it. My emails were polite rejections, or worse, nothing at all. Recruiters ghosted. Friends liked my optimistic LinkedIn post, but never replied to my messages. Until one day, the ache turned into something else, resolve. I wasn't a victim. I was a product. And like any good product, I needed a rebrand. That's when I started freelancing. Quietly, strategically. I built a simple portfolio site under a new name, just my initials, AM Strategy. Vague enough to intrigue, clean enough to convert. I pitched startups, non-profits, tech companies going through transitions. And soon enough, they bit. One client turned into two. Two turned into five. I worked from cafes, my apartment, even a friend's and used office space downtown. My rate? I undercut everyone at first, just to prove I could. But the real magic came when I learned to read between the lines, when I figured out what companies really wanted. Not someone to tick boxes, but someone who could fix things fast. I built workflows, streamlined project handovers, rewrote entire knowledge bases in a weekend. I got a reputation, quietly, and people started whispering my name in decision-maker circles. Still, it didn't prepare me for the email that would change everything. Hi, Avery. Hope you're well. We're looking for external support for a few upcoming initiatives, change management, documentation, digital migration. Your name came up. Can we set up a call? I stared at the email for 10 full minutes. There it was. Not just karma. Opportunity. He didn't recognize AM Strategy. Didn't realize the ghost he was trying to summon was the one he'd exorcised months ago. But that was fine. I'd wear the mask. I'd smile. I'd charge triple. I responded, happy to explore this. Let's discuss scope and rate. The Zoom call was almost cinematic. Jason looked older. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe it was guilt. AM, great to meet you, he said, not even realizing we need help cleaning up some internal chaos. The team's overloaded. We had some restructuring. Some restructuring? You mean firing people like me who actually held things together? I can help, I said. I charge by the hour, $275 flat. Non-negotiable. Jason blinked. That's fair. Fair. They used to pay me $90,000 a year. Now, they were paying me the equivalent of $550,000. They sent over the contract that night. Week 1, I logged in as consultant at amstrategy.co. No one questioned it. I started with documentation. I rebuilt their onboarding flows, restructured their internal wikis, exposed outdated processes that hadn't been touched in years. The same people who once rolled their eyes in meetings were now tagging me in threads, asking for advice. Jason scheduled regular check-ins. He started asking me for my opinion on things he used to dismiss. We've got a leadership workshop coming up. Think you can weigh in on the agenda? I sent him the exact same proposal I'd pitched 3 years ago, the one he'd called overkill. This time he loved it. Brilliant, he replied. Send an invoice. By month 2, they depended on me. Desperately. Every crisis funneled through me. Every initiative needed my input. I watched the cracks grow deeper. Junior staff quitting, new hires floundering, silos getting worse. But I never offered more than what I was paid to do. No late-night Slack messages. No weekend heroics. No above and beyond. I was a ghost with a premium rate. They started offering more projects. Can you take on leadership coaching? Would you consider running our internal audit? I agreed, but only at a higher rate. $3.25 an hour, I said, plus retainer. Jason didn't even flinch. The real turning point came during an executive offsite. They flew me out to Aspen. I walked into the lodge conference room, where Jason introduced me as a leading consultant we've partnered with. No mention of my name. Perfect. The session started. Halfway through, someone from legal, Shirley, squinted at me. You look familiar, she said. I smiled. A lot of people say that. Jason looked uneasy, but he didn't say anything. He couldn't, because by now I knew things. They had a data compliance issue they'd swept under the rug. I had the receipts. I had the timelines. I had the Slack logs they didn't think anyone archived. I wasn't just their consultant. I was their insurance policy. By month 4, I submitted my highest invoice yet. $41,200. Jason approved it within 20 minutes. He was too busy dealing with another wave of resignations. The culture had soured. Everyone was stretched thin. Their vision was now a rotating carousel of buzzwords. I was the only thing keeping their internal knowledge intact, and I was charging them more than the salary of 2 mid-level employees. That's when I knew. I didn't need to destroy them. They were already doing it themselves. I just happened to be profiting from the decay. One night, Jason messaged me privately. Can I ask something? Were you ever on our team before? You remind me of someone. I typed, then deleted. Typed again. Deleted. Finally, I wrote, We've all worn different hats, Jason. And I sent my next invoice. Increased rate. No explanation. He approved it within the hour. They say revenge is best served cold, but mine came with an itemized invoice neatly formatted in a PDF with a smiley face in the signature line. It wasn't just about getting paid. It was about making sure they felt the weight of every ignored idea, every dismissal, every fake smile masking quiet sabotage. I'd spent months tightening the screws, quietly taking control of projects Jason had half-baked or handed off, proving my systems worked better. I didn't need credit, just data. Data that showed the company was bleeding money before I stepped in and started patching the holes. And every patch had my name in the metadata. One day, Rebecca, the CFO, reached out directly. Avery, could you join the senior review this quarter? We'd like you to explain the systems shift you implemented. The cost savings are, well, incredible. I smiled at my screen. Jason's name was nowhere on that thread. Happy to, I replied. Should I send over my report beforehand? Jason had no idea it was coming. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. I wore a charcoal blazer and no emotion. When the camera clicked on, I was there, centered and calm, while Jason's eyes flicked nervously between the Brady Bunch grid of executives. Avery, Rebecca began, tell us what you've been doing differently. I think the numbers speak for themselves, but Jason said, you might have some insights. I nodded. Absolutely. I launched into my presentation, my framework, my automations, my predictive analytics model that had already saved them over $500,000 in quarterly losses. I clicked through datasets, clean visuals, and subtle jabs. None of this existed before I came in. Jason sat frozen. He didn't say a word until the end, when someone asked if I could stay on longer term. Actually, I said, this quarter ends my current engagement. I'm transitioning to work with a Fortune 100 firm who made me an offer I couldn't refuse. The silence hit like thunder. Jason choked out. You didn't mention you were leaving. I didn't think it was relevant to you. I replied, evenly, after all, I'm just a freelancer, remember? The looks on the faces of the execs were priceless. One or two even chuckled, not maliciously, but in the way people laugh when someone smart flips the board and walks away with all the pieces. After the meeting, Jason sent me a Slack message. Jason, we should talk. Can we hop on a call? Me, sure. Please email my agent to schedule something. Jason, agent? Me. I work through a management firm now. They handle all my engagements, including rates. Jason, Avery, what are you doing? Me. Charging triple. Just like you taught me. 2 days later, my final invoice hit their inbox. Meticulous bolded line items. Every optimization, every save project, every moment of silence I endured while Jason took credit. Final amount. $87,300. Due on receipt. I included a line that said, please remit payment promptly to avoid late fees. A 10% penalty applies after 7 business days. Jason replied with a single email, we're not approving this. I forwarded it to Rebecca. She overrode him. That same week, a job post popped up online. Head of Innovation Strategy, immediate hire at their firm. Jason's job. Word spread quickly. Turns out, someone had CC'd Rebecca on the internal reports Jason had summarized, reports with my name in the footnotes and timestamps from weeks prior. His last act of power had been trying to underpay the woman who rebuilt his broken ship. Mine was sending him a thank you note. Dear Jason, thank you for the lessons. Without you, I wouldn't have learned how fragile power is when it's built on silence. Enjoy your job search. If you need consulting advice, you know my rate. Avery. I clicked send, logged out of my company Slack, and exhaled. You see, they laughed when I said I was freelancing. Called me unambitious. Said I wasn't a team player. Now they hire my team, and they pay us triple. Have you ever taken the pain they gave you and built something they couldn't ignore? If you've ever let the fire of revenge burn slow and silent, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Real revenge isn't loud. It's earned. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for being part of this healing. Until next time, stay steady, stay kind,